Let us start with the module 4, that is the installing grid connected PV system. In this system that they will be studying how we are going to install the PV system. In different countries, different things are there, different rules regulations are there, standards are there, regulations are there. So they have to follow all the rules, standards and regulation, and the permission also be has to be taken. Metering policy stand interconnection standards, authorization and specific codes and regulation will be there. So manufacturer installation will provide all the things in this one, and it has to be taken care taken care. And this PV array installation, in PV array installation, care should be taken that how the installation has to be done. Installation, and there should be a planning, and there should be a site visit site visit to know where the PV arrays has to be installed. In that area, boundaries has to be marked properly, and after marking the boundaries of the installation, whether it is on the roof or it is on the ground, then the hardware or mounting structure where the panels are going to install, that has to be attached properly on the roof, and with the screws, with the rafter to strengthen and to give a maximum strength. Then after that one, that it has to be assembled properly. The arrays has to be attached to the mounting structure in such a way that such a way installation should be in such a way that it should give a maximum efficiency. Now see, in this DC wiring, what happened, the PU models has to be connected properly, and the connection has to be given, and the wires has to be used. A sealed junction box has to be used, and the plugs and the receptacles connector are provided at the both the end of the wiring. And the string of models, number of a string of models should be connected. This should be connected to positive to negative and negative to the positive, and creating a big string in this one, and that string has to be brought to the particular area, and it has to be connected to the PV combined boxer. And the care and has to be taken for designing of cables. Cable routing and length required. Once what happened, the location you has been decided, then the cable routing is very important. The cable routing should be in such a way that the maximum should be minimum length of a cable has to be used, and minimum length, and there should be a, because what happened, the less the cable length, there will be less the voltage drop and the losses will be there. Now in this one we will see that this is the house, and if you see in this house, the PV array, they have mentioned the PV array is there, and PV combined box, the cable goes from array to combined box back to the grid, and again it goes to the grid interactive inverter, and then from there it goes to the house, as well as it goes to the grid connected, or directly from the inverter it goes to the import export meter, and depend upon that one it goes to house and to the grid. So the cable what you are seeing in the red color has to be taken care, the length has to be calculated, and maximum care has to be taken that the root or the length of the cable should be reduced in this matter. Okay, and this you can see, this is also nothing but a sample where the arrays are there. In these arrays you can see looping of the one models they have done. They are done the looping, they are connected in series. So they are connected this one in series, they have connected in series. Now the next, this also you can see, this is the looping, this also is a conductor looping they have done. Now in this one what happens, this is very important, the routing, the cable routing is very important. The cable come from array to the inverter, and into this one a DC cable is required. The voltage and current has to be, so there is a local regulation and country specification is there for the cabling to carry current carrying conductor and voltage, and mostly the copper conductors are used instead of aluminum conductor. And the cabling has to be is to be insulated, so that it should be protected from the surrounding environment and people. And cable insulation also varies, and it helps in many ways, like rating of temperature, sunlight, oil and water resistance. The color of the insulation plays very important role in. It depends upon the countries what is the color. Actually, the two cables are there, one is negative and one is positive cable. Some of the countries they take brown as a positive and gray as a negative, where some has take as red as a positive and black as a negative. So these are the different type of colors which has been used, which indicates the positive and negative of the cable, positive and negative cables. Cable size plays very important role. We have to select the cable size in such a way that it should not have too much voltage drops. So current carrying capacity, that is called as CCC. The CC, it is having two things. One is the power loss and the voltage drop due to the internal resistance. And it operates on certain temperatures, so it can the amount of current which is passing through that one, it should affect a lot in this one. It will affect a lot in this one. And now what happen when we are determining the cable, we have to determine whether it is aluminum or it is a copper. It is considered size or the gauge, insulation, highest insulation, location. This also plays very important. Voltage drops also plays very important in this one. What happen, there is a increase when the current increases, voltage drop also take place. And if the size of the conductor decreases, then also the voltage drop increases a lot. So the resistance and the size and resistance of termination fuse and disconnector device may also be contribute to the voltage loss. So the voltage loss, already it is having voltage. So AC or DC cable, whatever it takes, there is some voltage loss due to the internal resistance. So different countries have set a different specific code. For Germany, the voltage drop they have considered as a 1% voltage drop should be there, whereas in the Australia 5% of voltage drop is permitted. Now the next we will move with the PV combiner box. As we know, the combiner box collects the cable. It takes the cable from the arrays. The array from the array PV arrays, what happen? It all the cable it goes to the combiner box. So in the combiner box, it should be connected properly. It should be of a proper size. The cable which are coming should be labeled and should be colored. Colored. And if you see, this is an example, a loose example. This is a loose array cable. It is they doesn't have any support. It is left loosely. And here if you see, then electrician is working to install the PV array, and the is taking the cable or wire towards the PV combiner box. Now earthing and system earthing, grounding and earthing. We know that equipments mounting, when we are installing a PV system, that time there are many supporting structures or mounting structures. They are made up of a metal. Those, what happen when any current flows through that metal, then the voltage will be very high, and a person who touches that one will get the shock. So the safety, paramount of a safety is the safety has to be provided to each person who is working on that PV PV system. In this one, what happen, what they will do, they do the grounding or earthing. The particularly the component, all the components is are structures, metal frame, metal mounting structure of PV panel. It is a grounded or it is a connected to the ground, so that it is having the equipotential. Inverter installation. Inverter should be installed very near to the model. So the reason is that if you install near the model, the wire, the length of the wire will get reduced, and hence the power loss also will be reduced. It should be installed in good places where shelter should be there. Shelter should be there. Ventilated area should be there. It should not be exposed to the high temperature, and it should be easily accessible. Near over current protection disconnection switches should be installed very closely to this one. And you can see this is the PV string. From the PV string goes to the inverter and to the AC switchboard. Some checklists they have provided. When you are installing a PV system, you have to follow some checklists. So these are the checklists. For example, they have given, we have to check for like PV model. What is the model? We have to write okay. You have to specify model structures. We have to provide hardware for connecting, cable required, conduit. So these are there. This is the first. This is the second checklist. Continuation of the first one. So this all details they have to be provided for this one. Now next in this one, the interconnection with the utility grid. See what happened, the system is which a small scale power generation are connected to the grid is referred to the interactive generating system. The consumer uses electricity from the both sources. They take from the PV also, PV system also, they take it from the utility grid also, when depending upon the requirement. This may the metering little bit changes in this one. When net metering is used, electricity produces by PV system used at that point of attachment. Any excess is there, it is any excess is exported back to the grid, and any additional electricity is there purchased from the grid. In a gross meter, what happen? In a gross meter, in a gross meter, what happen? All electricity is exported to the grid, and electricity required by the load is imported from the grid, so that no current flows directly from the PV system to the load. Now this is the things how it will be working from the PV array to the inverter, then to the inverter to the meters and switchboard, then it goes to the grid it goes. Now this they have shown a summary of the connection of the component of the grid connected PV system using net meter. So you can see PV array is there, it is a grounded box, it comes to the P junction box and disconnector, then it goes to the inverter, then from the inverter again it particularly it is good connector, then meter, from metering it goes to the grid, or it goes to the load within the building. Now this is the method wiring diagram shown in the net metering arrangement, how the directly from the inverter it goes to the meter. This is the way how this one wiring they have done. It is very important. For net metering it is a different, and for the gross metering also it is a different. This is a nothing but a summary of this is summary of the connection component of grid using gross metering. This is the gross metering. In the gross metering you can see the ground, PV arrays, combiner box, and you can see it goes to the grid. Export is there, import is there. In this one goes to the building also, it goes to the grid system also. For this one the metering section is quite different. In this one they take, so export import is there. So this type of metering it is quite different wiring diagram they have done. The next is required information for the installation. When you are installing, proper drawing diagrams should be there, and at local it should be passed from the local authorities, and the drawing should illustrate the on-site location, equipment, everything. So the first thing what happens, the electrical drawing is very important. We will specify the PV array configuration, wiring system, overcurrent voltage, inverter, disconnector, and the sign required for this one. First, the wiring should provide all the sufficient detail about the electric equipment and the size, number of the cable required, conduits, what are the PV model, what is the inverter, everything. Full detail plan has to be given in this one. Site plan, architectural diagram has to be taken and has to be checked properly, and the location of the inverter, isolators, arrays should be shown on the architecture drawing drawing. And this one calculation sheet, the calculation sheet is very also important, where you can calculate many things like temperature, maximum power, short circuit current, power losses, short maximum, then open circuit voltage. This was very important, which has to be calculated before the installation. So in additional to this one, drawings, permit applications package, data sheets, manuals should be taken from the manufacturer. Now let us discuss the safety procedures. Some safety procedures are there that has to be followed while installation of the PV system. The first comes the electric shock. See what happens when a safety procedure is going. Whenever you are installing a PV device, a PV array, it is it is connected in series, so it produces lot of voltage. So a particular one string or one model will be producing 120 volts DC supply. So 120 volt DC supply is a very very large amount of voltage and DC voltage. It is a very dangerous also. It is below that also, it is a very dangerous and it is a fatal. So the national standards or local code should be made in such a way that no DC string should be more than 120 volt DC, and it should be taken very carefully that carefully while installing that one. So so in this one, the workplace has to be considered, proper protective clothing has to be included, gloves has to be done, and to avoid all this risk. The next point comes working at height. Wherever the PV array which is been installed, it is installed on the mostly on the roof side. When it is installed on the roof side, there is a people will be working at particular height. So safety and standard has to be maintained for this one. Ladder has to be provided, proper ladder has to be provided, access proper access has to be given, and the ladder should be made up of a good material. And manual handling injuries, see injuries may happen lifting the object, heavy object. So group a particular group should be a particular group should be there to lift the heavy item. Falling objects, while doing installation, there are many times what happen, the object may fall from the roof and it may hurt the person. It may hurt the person. So the workplace has to be kept clean and tidy, and precaution has to be taken, and nothing has to fall on that one, or it, and to avoid many injuries. If something falls, tools or anything fall, then it causes injury to the working peoples or the laborers. So those things has to be avoided. Environment, what happen in the environment, the particular who is working, a person who is working, it is working outdoor for a long hour, it can cause physical exhausted. He may become physical exhausted due to the summer, particularly in the summer time, summer season. It is not possible to work for a longer hour. So arrangement for the water has to be made. He has to drink plenty of water. Rest he has to take whenever it is required, and he has to wear proper clothes to avoid the sunburns also, and gloves also should be provided to the working people.